Hello everybody, this is Cyrus from Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics, where we discuss life after death, spiritual topics, things like that, and I'm coming at you with another video tonight talking about mediumship and how even well-intentioned mediums sometimes get things wrong, and why it's best to be a bit cautious about that when you're getting information from a medium about what the other side is like. But before we jump into this topic, if you can hit the subscribe button down below, the big red button, I would really appreciate it. It's basically the thing that's going to keep this channel going. I need at least 1,000 subscribers to even gain access to basic functions with YouTube, like the ability to have advertising. So none of that is even possible until you reach like a certain benchmark. And yeah, so I really need your help with that. Okay, so to continue. I know a woman who is part of Afterlife University, which is a series of bi-weekly classes that I put on. And this woman, who's a friend of mine, had an experience with a medium that was very upsetting. So basically, this medium told her that after you pass over, all of your relationships with people are, quote, disintegrated. So if you have a daughter on the other side, your daughter is no longer your daughter and she'll no longer call you mom. If you have a parent on the other side, they'll no longer think of you as their son or daughter. If you have a spouse, that's no longer your wife or husband. And so this is what the medium was telling this woman I know. Now, this same woman has a relationship with a deceased loved one. And she has been able to be in contact with this deceased loved one and was very distraught upon hearing this information. And so upon hearing this, she was like, well, what are we going to call each other when we, once I pass over, if you no longer think of me as being the person that I was when we were together? And this deceased loved one was like, what are you talking about? Why wouldn't I call you? And I'm not going to reveal the relationship. I don't want to jeopardize the privacy of my friend in the group or anything, but you get the point. So like they're like, if it's the parent, like, why wouldn't I call you my daughter? If it's a child, why wouldn't I call you my mom? That kind of thing. And so this person living on spirit side was pretty confused about this. And basically, the reason that this individual living on the spirit side was so confused is because this medium was, to put it bluntly, was full of crap. And it's not necessarily that a medium who says something like this is ill-intentioned, but what's going on is that they are receiving information from the other side from a very, very narrow perspective. And a lot of human beings suffer from this issue where we get a bit arrogant and we think that our perspective applies to everybody. And so this is a very common and very low-level behavior that we primitive earthlings seem to suffer from, which is it's an inability to look at things on a macro level. So it means that if you pluck a communist out of Soviet Russia and talk to this communist, they will, like a really a die-hard communist. You go back in time, grab one from the Red Revolution, they're going to say everything from the perspective of being a communist. So let's say aliens abduct this guy and take him on the spaceship and ask, so what is human civilization like? Well, it's all about rebelling against the bourgeoisie and equality for everybody, etc., etc. They will say, what's the best system of government? What's it like there? Basically, everything this guy says is going to be painted in the color of their ideology. So a medium may have a connection to a guide or a soul group that has a specific way of looking at things, which just so happens to be completely different from probably everybody else. But this is a specific soul group that arrived at their mode of existence over who knows how many incarnations. As we talk about with soul groups, it could be 1,000 people who began their life as ants, you know, little ants crawling around an ant colony until their consciousness evolved enough until they became the point that they're at now. Who knows? We have no idea. It's extremely vast, and so much information can be totally different. So a medium is going to hear specific information from like a soul group, and they're going to paint the entire subject of the afterlife with that same brush. And it is irresponsible to do that, but most people do this, and it's a shame, but we just have to be aware of it, especially when dealing with topics like this. And we have to look at things from a bigger perspective and see that for the most part, anyone's attempt to pigeonhole what the afterlife is like is going to be incorrect. So any attempt to say the afterlife is just one way, right away it's both true and false. So yes, it might be that way for one group, and it's probably not that way for everybody else. So a lot of people have a conception of the afterlife based on specific accounts from deceased people, and this is why in spiritualism, many people talk about what they refer to as Summerland, a pastoral, beautiful afterlife realm where it's eternally summer and never nighttime. Why? Because many people during the heyday of spiritualism were in touch with deceased people from England. And many people from England who were dying were choosing this corner of the astral world, probably because they were darn sick of those English winters and cloudy skies 7 days a week, and all they wanted was to be in a place where it was always summertime. Now you tell somebody like me from Arizona about Summerland, and it's like, no sir, I think I'll take Autumnland any day over that. So that's a good example of this kind of, what's like, myopic, or a perspective that is just crunched down to one viewpoint, without people doing the responsible thing and saying, you know, this is just the way it is for me or my group or my experiences. The reality is it could be all kinds of things, but there are generalities. Generally speaking, people who die there continue the same type of relationship they had here. Parents are still parents, siblings are still siblings. Even if that changes based on like past lives and remembering different relationships, then it's kind of like you can hop between them. So maybe your sibling at one point was a cousin, and it's like you can hop between those memories and perspectives, but it doesn't mean that that relationship dynamic is destroyed or disintegrated. So with my friend, she received bad information, which also led to a lot of pain and a lot of grief. That said, I also want to point out that many mediums are also wrong, and I'm not going to be bashful about speaking my mind about this. Many mediums, many phone psychics, many people out to make a buck are not mediums. At best, they're just saying stuff based on their intuition, but it's not coming from anywhere special. It's just coming from their imaginations. So a lot of the skeptics in this world who criticize mediumship and attack fake mediums, they're actually correct in what they're doing, because there's a lot of mediums out there, sadly, who prey on grieving people. And they're people, they never were psychic, they probably never believed in these topics, but they thought, there's a market in grieving people. I'll bet they'll pay me anything for me to say a bunch of generalities. And so what happens when you get one of these people giving information about the afterlife? They're just going to regurgitate things that they hear in pop culture, and sometimes it's going to be an embarrassment to, I think, anybody with a sensible mind about these matters. Well, that's it for this video. If you like what I have to say, feel free to get involved and check the channel description. You can click to see the rest of the videos on the channel. I have a couple books out there, Understanding Life After Death and the Afterlife and Beyond, which you can find on Amazon, potentially at your local Barnes & Noble. You can find the links in the description. We have the big Facebook group. We have the website, Afterlife Topics. We have the classes. All those are things you can get involved with if you like this kind of thing. Thanks for your support, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Remember, stay vigilant. Stay vigilant with mediums, and guard yourself, guard your happiness, and guard your mind, and guard your well-being. Okay, talk to you next time.